mentors, counselors, and career coaches, brought to you by the Center's Collaborative for Technical Assistance. This webinar is recorded, and you'll be automatically getting a link to the recording and to the slides as well. Let's begin for today. On this webinar, you will be in listen-only mode using your computer or phone. But there's plenty of opportunities to ask questions. Use the Q&A window at the lower right of your screen. And we'll be asking you questions as well via the polling function. As I mentioned, this webinar is brought to you by the CCTA, the Center's Collaborative for Technical Assistance. Well, what is the CCTA? First, it's led by 5 centers, including the National Center for Convergence Technology at Collin College in Texas, the South Carolina ATE Center, the Florida ATE Center, FLATE, the BioLink Next Generation Center at City College of San Francisco, and the Networks Resource Center at the Maricopa Community College District. The CCTA, as many of you know, has a purpose, and that is we are responding to a request from the Department of Labor to the National Science Foundation to have a closer connection between the ATE program centers in the way of providing technical assistance to DOL-TACT grantees. But more than that, all of our activities are relative not only for DOL grantees, NSF grantees, but workforce development programs of all kinds. On this webinar, we have people that are registered from all around the country, and they're interested in finding out best practices, new models of helping students succeed. In addition to these webinars, we host a variety of convenings, and we post on the website a number of white papers with our best practices. More about that as we go on through the webinar today. Let's start with a poll. On the right of your screen, we're asking, what is your affiliation? Are you involved with an NSF grant, a TAC grant, both of those type of grants, or neither? Now, this is a pretty easy one, so please choose which one you're selecting, and then don't forget to hit submit. Okay, thank you very much, folks. You know the answer, so I'm just going to count down briefly. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now the poll is closed. It takes just a minute for those results to go up into the cloud and to come back down, and we'll take a look and see who's with us today. Christina will show us the results from the poll in just a moment. So the cloud's working fast today, or maybe not quite so fast. Thanks for your patience today. Folks, we'll just wait just a moment and see the results from the poll. Thank you for waiting, folks. We're just waiting just a moment for the poll results to come in. Thank you again for waiting. Christina, should we continue, or do you want to hold for the results on this one? Folks, thank you for just a moment. We're just holding for just a moment. Oh, Christina says the results are showing. I'm sorry that I'm not seeing them, Christina. My fault there. I'll tell you what, let's just go ahead and we'll save those results. Let's go ahead to the next poll, if you would. And let's go ahead and please close that one, Christina. And then we'll start the second poll. Thank you, attendees, for your patience while we do this. So here's the second poll. We often ask, how many people are listening with you? Is it just yourself? So you would say there's nobody. You would do A. Or if there's one other person or 2 other persons or 3 or more, go ahead and click those results, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at those results too. So thank you for responding to those questions on the right of your screen. Let's do the response here, and then don't forget to hit submit, please. And there we go. Poll is closing now in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, the poll is ended, and we'll take just a moment to see those results. I'm sorry, friends, that I was the problem child. I couldn't see the results before, so thank you. Okay, everyone. Let's just take a moment for the polling results to appear. And there they are. Majority of us, as you might expect, are by ourselves, but a number of people are there with groups. So thank you very much. Go ahead and close that poll. Take it off the screen if you would then, Christina. Thank you. So let's go ahead and talk about today's event. And thank you again for your patience with me on that. I'm Mike Lasecki. That's me on the right. I'm the host for today's webinar. And also joining us is Elaine Johnson, the Executive Director and PI of the BioLink Center. Hello, Elaine. Would you introduce yourself and then please introduce your colleagues, John and James? Go ahead.
Yes, it's really a pleasure to be here today, and we're very excited about this topic of the roles of the advisors and counselors and career coaches. With me today is John Carice, who's the Director of the San Francisco-based Center of Excellence for Labor Market Research, and it's based at City College of San Francisco. John has had extensive experience working in this field and has become a national expert in describing some of the kinds of information that can be available to the counselors, to the faculty, to parents, to students as they're thinking about what they want to do and planning for that. Also today, James Lewis is the coordinator of the Bridge Internship Program at City College of San Francisco. It's a bridge to biotechnology, but he's also had a lot of experience with CTE programs in general and has been working for a number of years to create this environment where the students are in contact with these advisors and counselors. So as we move on, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. And here we have a chance for you to tell us right up front, what does your organization use based on your own definitions at this point? Would you please answer this poll? Do you have academic advisors, academic counselors, career counselors and career coaches, employment specialists, or some combination of the above, all of them, or none? Go ahead and answer the poll, and then please submit your answers.
Thanks, Elaine. I'm just reminding folks to hit the send button, or rather the submit button, once they have their answers in. Let's just give them another moment. I'll do a countdown, Elaine. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So let's go ahead and close that poll, Christina, and see what the results are. Elaine, it takes just a moment for those results to come up. So thank you, folks, while we're waiting for the poll responses to come up. And there they are. Look at that, Elaine. Most have a combination of these types. And I think you said the right thing. What is their definition of these people?
I know, and that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today, because we've got to have some kind of common language as we go forward in this conversation. And this combination is one that is certainly true across the community colleges that have ATE programs. We're looking at ATE in particular because those are the programs that are addressing emerging technologies. And it's the emerging technologies that so many people don't know about, they haven't had the experience, they don't know what kind of jobs there are, so this becomes a very important role. Let's go on and look at some of the differences between these student services and what they provide in support for the students as they're developing their careers. First of all, as we move to the academic side, there are advisors, commonly called, and counselors, and they really help the students in their academic area. They interpret test scores, help the students select classes, choose the right degree, if they're transfer students, to help them understand what that might mean for the transfer process, discuss majors and programs, and getting help for academic problems, and locating additional help for other concerns. But there's another side to this, as we see on the next slide, where we've got career counselors, and sometimes even finer definition of the career coaches, and they're trained to assist people in their transition from the academic setting to the workplace. And this can involve such things as interest inventories, the development of soft skills, coaching for resumes, and practicing interviews. So that's another whole area. And then even more than that, many of the colleges actually have employment specialists and job placement specialists that can help the student connect with the employers and find employment opportunities. So they're working with these CTE programs to develop industry-specific contacts and help collect the information about the local labor market demand or regional demand, set up the job and career fairs, and assist in posting to job boards and tracking employment. So we're going to move on and then look at a very special example from Collin College of an extensive program that used career coaches. And they did a number of things for outreach, recruitment, retention, and completion. And this particular example was funded with a large Department of Labor grant. So there was some money behind this for the college and the programs, and it was multiple programs to make class presentations, visits in the hallways, follow-up with the students, potential issues that might occur. And then there were a lot of workshops where the students practiced and got feedback on resume writing, interview preparation, mock interviews, got hooked into LinkedIn, or linked into LinkedIn, I guess, and how to prepare for and work a job fair. And as we move on, there's also job developers as a part of this particular program that assisted the students in finding jobs and strengthening the relationship between the college and employers. And so the employer involvement were this list where we hired students, they participated in job fairs, mock interviews, employer panels, and so on. And if we look at an example of how this might look, here we have an example of a networking event. This one happens to be at City College of San Francisco, where students have had an entire semester working as interns in industry or academic labs, and they're presenting their posters. But you see how dynamic and how engaged the students are. And then throughout the day, it's an entire day event, there are industry people and coaches and advisors that are helping the students with their interview skills, their presentation skills, their resume writing, and so on. Now, if we go on to the next piece, here is something that's really important. If we have a lot of funding to put into a project, how do we sustain it? And this is going to be a theme throughout this presentation. In this particular case, Collin College was able to involve their institutional research. And they had data from students that actually used the career coaching and those that did not. And for 3 different years, they looked at the students that used career coaching in the fall or did not, and whether they continued on into the spring. And so if you look at this information in the year 2012, in the fall, 29% of the students in these populations did not use career services, and 29% persisted. But if they used career services and the coaching, career coaches, there was a 77% retention into the spring, a persistence. So, okay, let's try that again the next year. And sure enough, the next year, those that did not use the grant services in the career coaching area, 36% of them persisted into the spring, whereas those that used the grant services had 69% persistence. And then the next year, 35%, and almost double to 62%. The way this looks in reality is a lot of data from institutional research. And the same numbers that I just talked about are circled in red here. So when you get this large amount of information from institutional research, you can pinpoint those specific areas of success. And in this case, the college itself decided that they would add career coaches to their general offerings. And the request was for 2, and the college came in with 3. So here's a beautiful example of something that was tried with grant money, was so successful, but because the data was gathered, that was there in your face, so to speak, that shows the benefit of the career coaching. And so now we're going to move on and see how these work in a little different way. And I'm going to call on James Lewis to describe what kind of activities he's been involved with at City College of San Francisco. James?
Okay. Thanks, Elaine. Well, first I'll say it really doesn't surprise me that retention was improved in this program working with career coaches. I think when students can see how what they're learning in the classroom is preparing them for success in the workplace, they're going to stick around. They're going to want to take full advantage of what is being offered. So quickly, I want to give you a little background on my experience to help you understand my perspective and the suggestions I am making in this webinar. So I work at City College of San Francisco, and I helped start and develop what is now a fairly successful program for students interested in starting careers in the biotech industry. We have a lot of biotech research labs and companies in the San Francisco Bay Area. And certainly when we started the program back in 2004, there was lots of press about our local biotech industry, the fantastic things being done, the many career opportunities in this emerging field. People were being encouraged to consider biotech. There was lots of outreach at the college, so we started getting students. Although we have some younger students fresh out of high school, the average age of our students is 35. Many of them transitioning from jobs they felt were dead end or unexciting in some way. They wanted something better career-wise. While there certainly are some entry-level positions for students who complete our year-long program and internship, many of our students, upon finishing the program, even when they get a job right out of the program, will see the need to continue building their skills in order to improve their career opportunities. Really, they're going to be balancing work with some amount of continuing education for a time. Now, even with high demand for work in the biotech industry, our students have a lot of ground to cover in order to be job ready. At the beginning, it can be super challenging for them. They have to work really hard. The academics are rigorous. Many aspects of workplace culture in biotech are unfamiliar to them. They really need to feel confident in the value of what they're doing in order to persevere and succeed. So all that said, we wanted to help our students take advantage of whatever resources we were able to provide them with to help them along. Having a clear educational and career plan, one that made sense to them, seemed essential. With this in mind, when we started the program, we wanted to help connect our students with student service providers who could help them with this career development and support guidance. So how did we do this? At first, simply, we invited academic counselors and career counselors to come speak with our students and let them know about the services that were provided at the college, prompting them to take advantage of the Career Center, emphasizing the importance of developing an educational plan for them. The problem was the students did not take advantage of these resources. For some reason, they weren't going to meet with our academic counselors outside of class. They weren't going to the career centers. So we asked them why. What's going on? Why not? The most basic answer was that they couldn't make time outside of class. Something that was interesting that came up over time, it seemed that they saw this extra student service support. If they needed it, maybe that meant they weren't ready for the program. And then finally, something that we found, some of the students expressed that they weren't convinced that the career counselors or academic counselors could really help them. They weren't sure of the value. This wasn't entirely surprising. Most of our counselors did not seem to know a lot about our program or a lot about our particular industry. And I think that's true for a lot of CTE programs. It's a lot to ask for our student service providers to have deep, thoroughgoing knowledge of any of our particular industries. Okay, so next slide, please. So rather than outsourcing, we prompted the instructor, we think instructors should consider working with these student service providers to integrate more career development support into the classroom. Next slide. So here are some of the career awareness activities that we developed working with these student service providers. In this poll, we're wondering which activities do you see benefiting your students? And I'll read off those activities. A, developing a career plan. B, developing a comprehensive educational plan to support career objectives. C, researching relevant information on a particular industry. D, identifying local job opportunities. And E, writing introductory letters or cover letters and resumes. So I'll give you a moment to take the poll.
James, it's Mike. In this case, we're just asking people to identify the one that they think is the most important. I know it'd be likely to click more than one, but the one that's most important. Yeah,
it's nice if they could click more than one, but certainly if they can think of what seems most to stand out, that would be good information for us.
Okay, so let's give them another couple of moments here, A, B, C, or D. Okay, folks, we can see the results coming in. Go ahead and make your selections. I'm going to start the countdown now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so that ends the poll. And thanks, folks. We're going to have one other poll right after this one, so hold on a moment. We'll take a look at the results from this one. James will see which one they think is the most important of these career awareness activities. So holding for just a moment while the data goes up to the cloud and comes back. There it is. Look at that, James. The number B, developing a comprehensive educational plan, is the clear winner here.
Wow, interesting. Okay, Similarly, so here are some of the career awareness activities that we developed working with these student service providers. Which activities do you see benefiting your students?
It's the second poll now, James, career development ones.
Yeah, I apologize for that. Yeah.
Sure.
It's a very similar poll. We just wanted to get more feedback. So A, workshops that provide an overview of a particular industry. B, informational interviews with industry professionals. C, workshops on what to expect and how to succeed in workplace culture of a particular industry. And D, practicing interviews for jobs, mock interviews, and E, student-run conferences that showcase new technical skills and achievements.
I want to check all of these, James, but I know which one I think, at least for me, from my experience, would be the best. Let's give people just another moment to respond. A, B, C, D, or E. Okay, folks, click your buttons. Don't forget to submit when you do that. And let's close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you, Christina. We'll have the results come up in just a moment. The system uploads them up into the WebEx system and then sends the results back down to us. So just a moment, James, and we'll see what people think is the most important career development activity. I know which one I think. Oh, well, I almost won. I had chose B, the informational interviews, but a slight favoring of workshops on what to expect and how to succeed. Many people chose that one as the winner there, James.
Interesting. Good.
All right. Excellent feedback. Let's go ahead, James. Let's close that poll and go ahead to the next slide.
Okay. So these are a lot of activities. How do we develop and sustain these sorts of career development activities such that they are relevant and engaging to our students? And I'm suggesting here that we embed the career development staff into the classroom and that we integrate the career development activities into our coursework and program activities. Next slide. Oh, it's actually the next slide. I apologize. Yeah, there. So I want to clarify here. We developed and integrated these activities into our program over a long period of time. All of this development was incremental. We are always working on and revising different activities. Our ability to engage a student service provider to have them work with their instructors and with our students is generally limited. In most cases, it's been through grant funding. We have had the opportunity to engage a service provider for a set period of time, a limited number of hours per week, perhaps over a 2-year period. So for 4 semesters in our case, we've been able to work with a career counselor or an academic counselor dedicated to our program for 5-10 hours a week, and they could focus on a particular activity. So we're able to get short-term commitments, and during this time we focus on developing an activity that we can continue to use with our students once these service providers are no longer available. The advantages to embedding career support. We see these advantages as when the support for career development is embedded into the curriculum, it's in the classroom, students learn how to be more proactive and self-directed in achieving their goals. This is how we structure the activities. Generally, students are prompted to consider what steps they will need to take to achieve their goals. Then, as they think through these steps, they usually realize they have questions, areas of uncertainty, things that they would like to understand better. Having formed these questions themselves, they're usually a little bit more motivated to find the answers. And then finally, they're given resources and methods to answer their questions. One of the benefits of this approach is that it strengthens career development support at the college. Working closely with the instructors and students of a particular CTE program, student service providers have the opportunity to gain more industry-specific knowledge, an opportunity they wouldn't have if they weren't working so closely with us. With this deeper specialized knowledge, they become a greater resource to students. Building on classroom activities, they can work more effectively. Students, they just have more time. The students are prompted to prepare more for these activities. And so the activities are often more successful than in a brief one-to-one appointment. And finally, they can also better inform other students about the program, assisting with outreach and recruitment. Okay, I've covered a lot. I want to give us a little bit of time maybe for questions.
Thank you, James. We've had several questions that have come in. One of the questions is, do these counselors work, any of them, on the admissions side? That is, do they help students enroll, guide them with financial aid, or are they really focused on students who are already in the program?
At least in the case of City College, our academic counselors meet with all the students as they're coming into the college in some way or another. They're very involved in matriculation. It's one of the steps to matriculating into the college is some interfacing with our academic counseling department. So they really are at the front lines, and their ability to know about our program or be able to refer someone in their staff that help the students connect with that person that knows more about the program. It's very, very helpful to our outreach and recruitment.
Well, good, because sometimes financial aid is pretty separate from, let's call it, career coaching or career counselor, career counseling. So that was an interesting comment there. Here's another one for you, James. You mentioned the term hallway visits. That sounded interesting, and several of our attendees said, what does that entail? What's a hallway visit?
I think that was mentioned earlier, and that was something that was in reference to Collin County and their career coaches.
Okay.
We've done hallway tabling where we've sat down and given information about our particular CTE program in a setting where we think that students might be interested in. That's just been a method of outreaching. I suspect it's similar. That's what was happening in Collins County as well.
Do you ever do anything in lunchrooms? Tables in lunchrooms?
We have. We have, in fact, done that. Very similar. It was just a little bit different because they were taking a break and they're eating, and it was more general student body. In our particular case, we thought, well, if we set up in the science building, we'll get more students who potentially will be interested. But again, these were just strategies for connecting with the students and making ourselves available to them.
James, we have time for one more question. I'm going to ask Elaine to come back on if she would. Elaine, is it in your impression, either at City College of San Francisco or other places across the nation, that these career counselors have some presence in high schools, or are maybe a specific presence or an occasional presence? Are they ever assigned to actually be at a high school?
They are, and that's a very interesting piece right now because there's getting to be more and more interest in the high school connection to these programs, including dual enrollment and credit recovery. There's a lot of interest in the pathways, and the programs are moving down into high schools. There's a lot of biotech programs in high schools, and even in middle schools. The students are getting more exposed to some of the possibilities that they have, and therefore the importance of the counselors is really critical because the teachers are very, very, very busy with the curriculum and many classes. So we also invite the high school students to our networking events and the teachers as well, and we have professional development activities that engage with the high schools. So that connection is getting stronger and stronger.
That's good, Elaine. In the interest of time, Elaine, I'm going to hold this next question till our next break, but I want both you and James to be thinking about it. What's the balance between people like counselors, their roles, and the roles of faculty who traditionally have also been involved in these sort of guidance activities? I'm going to hold that question, so don't answer it now, but I want to come back to that one. Let's go forward, colleagues, if we can, and thank you very much for your questions. Keep putting them in the question and answer window. And now let's hear a little bit more about sharing information.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So when these career development activities are embedded into classroom activities, there can be, there's a particular emphasis on sharing information, a kind of crowdsourcing function. So usually as kind of the final part of any one of these activities, students are asked to report out. And students gain greater confidence in their knowledge when they report out and share what they have learned with others. Also, and this is very essential, it gives other students in the class an opportunity to learn about things that they may not have considered themselves. So often, if there's some particular career development activity, the students are going to focus on different types of questions, different issues related to their own career interests. And again, in sharing that, it just opens up the awareness to other students about other issues that they may not have considered. And we think that this is very important and something that you benefit from in a group setting over a one-to-one setting. If we can move on to the next slide. So something that hasn't been mentioned, but I just want to throw out, is the importance of tapping into an alumni network. Students are often more receptive to hearing from peers than they are from instructors and student service providers. And for this reason, we highly recommend developing and maintaining an alumni network, and also making an effort to provide opportunities for the alumni to share their experience and insights with the current students. And there are a lot of these career development activities that, again, when they're embedded in the class, you can invite someone from the alumni network to come and engage with the students. Students tend to identify readily with alumni who have been through the program. They can understand the kind of obstacles and the ways that the student has overcome them. It often is very helpful. So I just want to underline that as another aspect to helping with career development. Okay. I wanted to give you an example of a project that is part of one of our classes that prepares the students to go out and be placed in an internship. It's a project that we've been doing for probably about 6 years, and it's developed over that time. So this is an example of a classroom project that was developed and strengthened with the assistance of different student service providers focused on career development. It's called the Area of Interest poster, and the students are developing different aspects of this poster over the course of the semester. So next slide. So this Area of Interest poster is actually presented at our end of semester biosymposium. It's a student-run conference that showcases the students' new knowledge, technical skills, and achievements. These posters are presented by first semester students that are starting the program, and they're basically just sharing this project with others. So in the Area of Interest poster, the students must explain the relevance of their area of interest, why it seems important, what kind of demand there is for it, and provide supporting evidence to back up their claims. They need to identify local projects or companies working in their area of interest. They need to specify entry-level positions, indicate what education and experience is needed to enter these entry-level positions. And finally, they conclude with how their findings from the poster project will inform their educational and career plans. So they're kind of prompted to have them reflect on how the research they've done will inform and prepare them. Okay, next slide. We break this project down into different components over the course of the semester. Many of these components have been developed with different service providers focusing on different aspects and helping us to develop those modules in the class. So for instance, we had a career counselor work with the program to develop an introductory module that helps the students evaluate and choose between different areas of interest based on what suits them. We had an academic advisor help the students develop an educational plan that aligned with their career goals, and most particularly fulfilled certificate and degree requirements. We had an employment specialist provide career-related resources to help students understand the demand for certain jobs and set realistic salary expectations. And finally, we had an industry liaison from a local trade organization who worked with our program to provide contacts for informational interviews and set guidelines and expectations for these interviews. Anyway, now I would like to turn this over to John to discuss how we can provide additional resources to student service providers that work with our students and to the students themselves. John?
Thank you, James. So just to remind you, I also work at City College of San Francisco, but I have a regional role as a labor market researcher for 28 community colleges in the San Francisco Bay region. And I work extensively with our career education programs at City College, but also at 27 other colleges across the 12-county San Francisco Bay area. So I'm going to talk a little bit about another way or another strategy that career development support staff can help students who are transitioning from an academic setting into the workplace. And this strategy kind of has two major components. First, embedding career interest information as well as labor market information into the program of study or catalog information that a student can access, but also making that information much more accessible virtually, making it web-based so that students and parents and anyone in the public can really access it at any time as they're looking for career education information that might be provided by a college. So I see this as part of a continuum, really, where we have counselors and career development staff doing one-on-one appointments. Also, as James just talked about, in a number of examples where they're embedding themselves in a classroom with students to help students with career decisions and career information. And this is another strategy that just complements those by making that information web-based and virtual so students can access it at any time. And so just one other thing as we talk about, before I get into the example of how this was done, at City College, I was part of a team, and the team was myself as a labor market researcher, but also career development staff at the college and a number of the career department chairs, career education department chairs from different divisions, all worked in a team to create this strategy that I'm going to share with you. We're going to start by the first part of this is really helping students look at their career interests and take what we call a career match survey. And so as you see on this slide, right in the middle of that wheel is the career match survey. It says, please take the survey, and students are prompted to do that first on the other information on the website. And when they take that survey, when they click on it, if you go to the next slide, they'll see something like this. You know, we're trying to put it from the student's point of view. If you're not sure which college choices are best for you, take this career match survey. That'll help you identify your interests and your kind of personality strengths and type, and that will then help us direct you to the career education programs offered at the college that match that. And so we're really helping students learn a little bit about themselves before they jump into looking at program of study information. So on the next slide, you'll see that what I wanted to give you as background is that this survey is based on John Holland's theory of different personality types, and he outlined 6 different personality types that you see here on the screen. I won't read them all, you can see them, but I'll just tell you pick a few and tell you a little bit about what these types are. So a realistic personality is someone who's very practical, mechanical, and realistic. The investigative personality is someone who's precise, scientific, and intellectual. And I'll pick another one. The social personality is someone who's very helpful, likes doing things for people, very friendly, and so forth. So the student takes the survey. Their top 2 personality types are given to them based on their answers. And then, if we go to the next slide, they're going to see that their personality types match to more or are aligned to closely some of the programs on the wheel, not all of them. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see that a student who found out that their personality was social and investigative would be directed to select healthcare as a possible program of study area because it matches their personality type. And then they could then click on healthcare, and if we go to the next slide, you'll see what they see. And this isn't everything they see. They're going to see college program information, but I wanted to highlight for you the new and different information that the team that I was on came up with. So this is really a student in the healthcare. Once they click on healthcare, they see some labor market data linked with the healthcare program of study. They see that, as you see in that arrow, that they're social and investigative, and that the description of that. And then here are some of the career options that they might be interested in looking at in the healthcare field. But there's also right away some labor market data. There are going to be over 1,800 new healthcare jobs in San Francisco by 2020. So right away we're trying to link their career interests with some possible jobs and some realistic labor market data about those jobs. And on the next slide, you'll see some more information that we shared with them. And this has to do with what's the earning potential in the healthcare field. And we link it to different levels of education. So if you take a healthcare program with under 30 units, we would call that a certificate program at our college. As a community health worker, you'd be in that $10 to $20 an hour range for average hourly wages. But if you got more education and got a certificate or degree in radiologic technology, you'd be in the 40 to 60 range, as you can see here. And if you went on further to a bachelor's in nursing, you'd be in that $40 to $60 per hour range. And so you're immediately getting some earning and wage information that may be helpful to you and to parents. And you can see that with the final piece of information there is that in less than a year, you could be making 27% more in each paycheck by just completing a certificate in healthcare from before you started to after you completed. So this was the idea our team came up with. We tried to implement it. I think our students are really excited about it. Our program department chairs are getting great feedback from students about how helpful this is as they make career choices. If we go to the next slide, I think we have questions, but I just wanted to show you that is another strategy that provides resources to students working with career development specialists to help us build this new website to help students make decisions about their careers with labor market data and information as the part of the basis for that, decision-making process. So I'll stop there, Mike, and we can take any questions.
John, a bunch of questions on this. I mean, I'm going to go back one slide because we just love to look at that slide again. Here we go. Is it only for City College of San Francisco students?
No, I mean, this is the example I'm giving you, but I really think this is something that could be, with some time and effort, and maybe not even a lot of money, something that all colleges could do. They could put that same team together, for example, of someone like me, maybe it's their institutional research office that's got this labor market and wage data available, but, linking that with career development staff and the different department chairs or division chairs all together to create the information that could be embedded on the college website where these programs are profiled or available.
Does that apply to, John, do you think I mean, this is clearly for the San Francisco area that you've developed here. You just have to do the work of putting in other geographical data. It's not like automatic. You have to put it in.
No, exactly. And so that's where I think, the resource people perhaps at the college, if you don't have a labor market specialist like me, maybe your institutional research department, often colleges have to do labor market research as part of program review, and every state has a state labor department where this data is available. So those are strategies to get that data and to customize it to the region.
John, I'm going to go back again to a previous slide. It's this one where that arrow is on the lower left. Here's a question that came in. You gave the impression that you first take the personality assessment and then it directs you to a field. Can a student already have decided on the field and go right to healthcare? Or what if there's more than one field? I know that's two questions in one. Tell us a bit more about that.
The first question, absolutely. They could go right to the program study area on this wheel that they feel they are already clear they want to pursue. That they could absolutely do that. The survey is to help the student. It's really considering not sure at all or considering multiple options, which is the second question. And they could take the survey and even, they could even explore areas that are not indicated by the survey results. So all of that is possible,
Okay, good. John, in the interest of time, and we're very perfectly on time, I do have a couple of questions that I want to hold, but let me move forward now. As we're getting near the end of our time together, I want to make a couple of announcements, and then we'll wrap up with some final questions. And the important one is, how do you do this at your own institution? We'll come back to that. And what is that balance of role between conventional faculty and staff at colleges as we take on these roles? But let me make these announcements first. We have a webinar series, as many of you know, and if you look into the future, not too far away, Grants and Innovation is coming up on Thursday, February 15th, a whole series of grant development related webinars for next winter and spring. So take a look at the website. See the bottom there, www.atecenters.org/CCTA. So folks, please take a look at those. We convene, as I mentioned, in several places. Number one, in March, in National Innovations Conference in National Harbor. So if you're attending that conference, look for our workshop on Monday. And join us in Miami. It's the 10-year anniversary of the High Tech, High Impact Technology Exchange Conference in Miami. And there'll be a convening there for the CCTA grantees and other interested people as well. You can register for that event on the Friday where we'll convene, have some input from program officers. It's really a good event. I think last year there was almost 60 people that had attended that event. You'll get an automatic link to the slides today, and on this slide you'll see a number of resources which you can click on and get more information about this fascinating area of career coaching, career counseling, academic advising, labor market information. Excuse me, folks, that was my mistake. And in addition to that, there's a link to, and many of you know this link, to Skills Commons. That's the repository for Department of Labor grants information in this area as well. Now on this final slide, as you could see from our presenters, they're very forthcoming and they're willing to respond to you by emails as well. I wanted to thank them, but now let's put up our wrap-up questions. Elaine, let me ask you to come back on. And let's see if we can address this. You know, conventionally, faculty have always had a leadership role in reaching out to students, acting as advisors, acting as career counselors. But now these other, let's call them staff members, like, you know, career coaches, are also in the game. What's the balance today? Is it still largely on the faculty shoulders? Do you have to get a grant to support help like this, or are the colleges stepping up? What's your sense looking around the country?
Well, I think in our case, the counselors are faculty members, and they're not staff. So they might have staff in their offices. There'll be that, you know, the support staff, as there are in most of the department offices. But essentially, the counselors are very well prepared to do the work, and then the faculty members in the disciplines are really the people that know the area of study. And they're the ones that are responsible for going to the curriculum committee to add new courses. And in the case of these emerging technologies, we've got a very strong emphasis on working together with the local industry people to understand what is needed in the industry, and the faculty will then develop their courses based on the needs of the industry as well.
Sure.
So there's that. So what we're seeing is that the counselors are kind of in between that, and they're the ones that are assisting the students with the soft skills, the things that are going to employability skills, the things that are going to allow them to be hired.
That's an excellent way of phrasing it, that the role of these counselors and so on are in between. I like that, Elaine. Thank you. Final question for James. James, you talked about all type of activities that can be done today. If you had to choose the one in your direct experience, which one has the most impact? Just shout it out.
I think it's preparing for a particular workplace culture, which in a lot of ways is just stepping the students through what they're going to need to do with the training that they have in order to go out and apply for and get an entry-level job. And usually there are different ways of approaching that in different career technical education fields, and so I think that probably is the most difficult, but probably the most beneficial to the students. They see the relevance of that. It's very practical to them.
Very interesting comment, James. Thank you. Preparing for the workplace culture. Good comment. John, we're going to turn the final question back to you. Everyone on the line would like to have that website you developed. So can they hire you? No, I'm sort of joking about that. You mentioned, well, maybe the answer is yes. You mentioned that you can pull a team together, an IR person, a labor market specialist, somebody that knows the discipline. Realistically, could you do this in like 2 months if you had a web person to help you as well? Could you put it together in that sort of time?
I think you'd have to put a planning. That's a pretty tight timeline. I think we were more in the 6 to 9 month range with this project, Mike. And I think that the key is bringing the team together, setting clear objectives, and putting that plan together. But if you have the right people at the table, I think it's very doable. It does cost some money because you do need the web design parts to fall into place, but the content knowledge is in the other folks, including the career development person, and I think that with some time and a little bit of money, you could pull it off. And I'm available for consulting, for helping out through CCTA and through ATE, of course, as I've done with you in the past, just answering questions and directing people to resources. Right.
I've always found you a great resource to pick up the phone or else shoot you an email, John, and thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So, colleagues, we're right at the top of the hour. We're perfectly on time, and let's give a round of applause. Can't really do that since no one has access to audio, but let's pretend we're applauding for Elaine, James, and John. It was a fascinating discussion today. I think this whole area of career counselors, career coaches, counseling, advising has really turned on in the last few years, and it's really starting to make a difference. So thank you, panelists, for your kind presentation today. Remember, folks, this is recorded. You'll get a link to the recording. And as you leave today, if you haven't already, when you close your browser window, another one opens up, and there's 4 questions. We're going to ask you to take just a moment and click on the responses to that webinar survey. That helps us improve and helps us document our value to the National Science Foundation, who's our funder. Thank you again for joining today. Look forward to future CCTA webinars. Thanks for joining. That officially ends our webinar today. Thank you, panelists.